welcome to Bingemas, a 12-part holiday special here on the Ringer Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jodi Walker, and we are on day 12, the last day, the 12 drummers drumming of binging this year's best original holiday offerings with all your Ringer faves. And today that means, by popular demand, and I'm not really totally sure what to think of you people now, Champagne Problems, a movie that is barely about Christmas, but is about dead moms, fathers obsessed with their legacy, sons also obsessed with their legacy, but they needed to be different from their daddy's legacy, so still quite wrapped up in the opportunities presented by the general wealth that they are provided, and the no-nonsense big city gal who's gonna worm her way inside their hearts despite any discernible, unique personality traits. And so, in that way, it is possibly the most original holiday movie we could have asked for to close out Bingemas. And to do so, by even more popular demand, I could only turn to the podcast goat of all goats, wearer of so many Ringer hats and actual hats, and even more signature jackets, and newest bestie of Bingemas, Chris Ryan. Merry Bingemas, how are you?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for making me watch Champagne Problems, a film I digested much like a season of Sherlock over the course of 3 nights, which should give you a sense of the pacing.
That's deranged, Chris. That's so deranged. Were you needing to take breaks for your emotions?
Just take breaks and just like maybe get some fresh air and kind of make sure.
Take a lap, go to a Christmas market, see how you're feeling.
That's right.
That does make me wonder because you were, okay, first of all, actually, I'm just going to peel back the fourth wall a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell the listeners that there were 2 things extremely in demand this Bingemas season. 1, Chris Ryan. 2, Champagne Problems. No matter what we posted, no matter which movie we did, this was like the first Netflix Christmas movie that came out. And everyone kept saying, where's Champagne Problems?
Okay.
And when I saw Champagne Problems listed in the Netflix and looked at the IMDb, I thought, this looks boring. And so there was a period of time where you were assigned to a little Lifetime movie called A Pickleball Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Is there a world where you wish you had watched that movie?
I mean, I think I'm probably closer to private equity than I am pickleball at this point in my life. Like, I literally have never held a pickleball paddle, but I have been squeezed by private equity. So I think that this is probably more up my alley. And I do have a lot of opinions about France.
I was really hoping that you would. You are my European source here on Bingemas today. And this is actually our first time podcasting together. And I do think I always knew that Minka Kelly would bring us together.
Yes. I mean, as a Friday Night Lights stan, this is. I was actually so fired up about this assignment because I was like, oh, Minka, I just watched I had done like a couple of these just in my own personal private time. My wife and I watching a couple of Netflix and sub Netflix movies over the course of the last couple of weeks. But I was like, Champagne Problems looks like it's like the prestige Christmas movie this year. It seemed like it was like presenting itself as like a little bit of You've Got Mail, you know what I mean? Like a little bit like of a classic rom-com. And I was quite surprised with what I got.
It is fancy. It does have that Netflix appeal of having 2 cents to rub together and actually give you a kind of convincing, charming bookstore.
Yeah.
You're not getting that over on Hallmark. But the thing about this movie is that it is barely about Christmas.
Yeah, I know. Save for a Christmas market scene, it's more about mergers and acquisitions.
It is very much about mergers and acquisitions. And about French sayings.
Yes.
And occasionally speaking French. And I started to think that maybe people liked this movie so much in comparison to some of the other original holiday movies this year because, like, you do kind of have to pay attention to it because they speak French a lot.
Yeah, it's hard to second screen this one.
You've got to read some captions, and they sort of take and give those captions. Sometimes they don't want you to know what they're saying in French so that they can have a big emotional reveal that will cause me to cry.
The problem is that then you're just like, well, I should just be watching a Truffaut movie then. Like, if I'm going to watch a French film, there's probably 174,000 French movies I would watch before Champagne Problems.
But do they have Minka Kelly in them?
No, they don't.
Or do they have this other guy, the hunk of the film,
Tom Wozniczka. Yeah.
Wozniczka,
That's what I'm going with.
Pretty new to the screen.
Yeah, he went pro with Slow Horses and Drops of God. He did the double dip Apple TV season, but yeah, Tom is like the Prince Charming in this one.
Which Drops of God also about wine, right?
Yes, and Slow Horses about child soldiers. So slightly it shows his range.
We're dealing. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed with his range. Let me quickly give the Netflix synopsis, which always keeps it simple, before we get into our synopsis of the film, which is: a driven American exec heads to Paris determined to acquire a champagne brand by Christmas and accidentally falls for the heir to the bubbly empire. I'm just not even sure that the countdown to Christmas was that clear.
I mean, it seemed kind of arbitrary. It seemed like the champagne, the head of the champagne company in France kind of arbitrarily sets that like he wants to like wrap this whole thing up by Christmas. But then you get the sense that there's something more deeply personal about this entire experience for this guy.
And do you think that he's kind of trying to like inverted parent trap his son and Minka Kelly into a relationship?
I think he's trying to like basically revive the spirit of Christmas inside of himself by inviting 3 or 4 random executives to his country estate, which is just always a classic way to fire up the holidays.
And he's basically chosen all people who have sort of like complicated relationships with their families so that they are able to do that at Christmas time, no problem.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, but before they get to, the grower champagne vineyard in which all of this takes place, we meet Sydney, Minka Kelly, whose job I could not believe. I mean, it's sort of like your typical big city marketing gal, but she basically works in private equity mergers and acquisitions,
for
which
a
has
company
to be
called the Roth Group.
Yeah,
yes.
They sound bad.
TRG, yeah.
She exclusively calls it TRG too. Like, I almost feel like she's masking the company.
Yeah. Well, she perceives herself as a crusader for small businesses. And that would be the first private equity person I've ever met who sees themselves that way. But like that, she does seem to have like kind of a more Capra-esque attitude about big finance.
Well, if I were her ultimate, beloved to be Henri, I think I'd have some pretty big jumping off questions about the ways in which this woman can lie to herself.
Yeah.
She is acting like she is like working at a scrappy startup, like helping these businesses get their feet under them, when she is just simply finding businesses and selling them to other businesses.
Yes. She's in the art of self-delusion. And luckily we have, a true like arch villain also working at the company, at the TRG, at the Roth Group. This guy, Ryan, played by Riley from Twilight.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I was like, it's where have you been, brother? Like,
I know, because he really jumps off the screen in that adult male blonde sort of way. Like when the camera swivels over, you're like, oh, there's our villain. There's our villain who sows discord.
Yeah, this is the guy who just like all he does is crush small businesses. That's what he gets up in the morning and dreams of doing.
Oh, he crushes up a couple of Adderall and then he crushes a couple of small businesses. He's got a 1-2 punch and you see it coming from a mile away. But then we meet him when Sydney is giving her opening presentation on Chateau Cassel, which is basically Castle is the name of this vineyard. And
house. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to my Castle wine. And after she gives the presentation, everyone's floored. Like, wow, I can't believe the plan she has to like take this family's centuries old champagne business out from under them. Looks great. And then her big boss is like, we're going to send you there. We've been chasing Castle for years. And then I'm like, well, then why did she give this big presentation?
Right.
She didn't even find them.
It wasn't like they needed the extra convincing that they should be going after this. And that, what we have to know about Castle is that many have tried and all have failed to acquire Castle. Yeah.
These are men far too obsessed with their legacy to create, I don't know. I mean, what did you understand about what was happening there? Like the vineyard is, after staying open for centuries, this guy is just too busy working on his vintage car to be able to keep it open anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're weirdly just like a lot of globalization stuff in this movie. And it seemed like Castle Champagne was beloved by real heads.
Yeah.
But had yet to break into the Asia market, had yet to like modernize its production. And so that's
they seem to be using like wheelbarrows out there.
All these financial groups are coming and they're saying like, look, just let us put a fresh coat of paint on this place. Let us throw some in the back and ship them over to Tokyo. And we'll be rolling in it, but at the expense of you having any control over your company anymore. And he just wants to keep it mom and pop minus the mom.
Always minus the mom is what's happening in this movie. And Sydney's ready. She said, I don't have any Christmas plans. I'm ready to go to Paris. This 45-year-old woman. I don't know how old she's supposed to be.
But Minka Kelly is 45.
Minka Kelly is 45.
Looks great at 45. Like, yeah.
I could not believe that when I Googled it.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe this is a 40-year-old. Yes, she looks incredible. Exactly like she did in Friday Night Lights, and also exact same voice. She speaks like Ariana Grande used to sing before she got back to the stage. The words just sort of travel in waves.
Yes.
Can't make heads or tails of it, but
there is like an element of ventriloquism to her performance, which I have a real soft spot for Minka Kelly. Like, yeah, Lila is one of my faves. So
I know I do have. I think that was part of me originally not wanting to do Champagne Problems. Is I was kind of like, I don't want to be disappointed in whatever Minka Kelly's doing here, and actually, I wasn't. She did what she needed to do.
Yeah.
The character doesn't have much to it. Like, she is a businesswoman who is only focused on business. She is apparently so focused on business. She is 45 years old and wearing a pinstripe suit and has never been to Paris. That's sort of hard to believe.
Yes. So she's coming from New York, right? Like, I wasn't quite sure because it felt like it was very much like shot in Charlotte or something, but I couldn't. I got the impression that she was able to get like the first thing that you need to know is that she seems to take a flight to Paris, arrive in the morning with one bag, and then is able to check into her hotel room immediately. And the concierge and the staff at the hotel are only disappointed that she doesn't open her heart to Parisian cultural experiences, and that she's like, yeah, I just need to get ready for this meeting. And this is where like the kind of uncanny valley of what's happening to the main character versus what's going on around her always amuses me with these Bingemas movies, like historically, is that they cast a notable female lead. She gives like a pretty neutral performance. And then that allows them to be like, well, why don't we have like just like, you know, Justin Long and this person and that guy are all going to be around them acting crazy, but maybe we can dial it back or dial it up. But as long as we have this central vanilla performance, we're good.
And the thing about that vanilla performance is that it is generally being like put up on this pedestal as like, we as these rich French men with this luxurious and glamorous job cannot believe our luck that we have met Sydney. Like it is repeated over, her name is repeated over and over throughout the film of like, well, how did you come to this conclusion, Papa? How did you open up your heart to me finally after years of grief over my mother's death? And he's like, Sydney, am I right?
Yeah, Sydney, I met the only woman in the world who listens to Taylor Swift's folklore.
Just couldn't believe it. And there's not a ton of, we can get if there are any like kind of magical elements to the way the ending of this comes together. There's not a ton of Christmas. There's not a ton of magic. I would say that the most magical thing happening is what you've noted, that like she walks up to this French concierge who is like, you're only staying with us for just all these French people want to do is provide this American woman a magical experience in Paris.
They just can't believe that she's not like, why aren't you going to the Eiffel Tower? I mean, why wouldn't you do all these things?
And then she also arrives in the morning in a full, she's wearing a hard pant from the airport. She's in a full outfit. And then to do her night in Paris, which she has pinky promised her sister, her sort of like last remaining living relative, who actually gets a lot of character development for no reason. She drinks a Frappuccino in Soul Cycle.
Yes.
She climbed
She wants
Machu
to be an
Picchu.
influencer, yeah.
She wants to be an influencer. She's kind of a mess. The sister has made Sydney pinky promise that she will spend one night in Paris having fun and not working. And within the construct of this film, pinky promises are very powerful.
Huge.
They're really big.
They're blood oaths. Yeah.
They are. And she's like, okay, fine. I'll go to a bookstore. I'll go to dinner. I'll put my eyes upon the Eiffel Tower. And then she goes upstairs and changes into a hoodie.
Yeah.
That was upsetting to me.
I thought her plain outfit represented maybe what Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy wants from all of us, which is like to bring back formal wear on airplanes.
She said, I'm going to pretend this KLM flight is a Pan Am.
Exactly. But then, she just completely dresses down when she's in the most fashionable city in the Western world.
These movies, like a question on the rubric is how modest is the wardrobe? This movie was so rude because it gave Henri, the Frenchman, these luxurious textiles, a lot of great chunky sweaters, some jackets I think you could have been interested in. And this woman was never not in like a V-neck.
Yeah.
Sweater.
It's like a lot of like day to night yoga, but also you could wear it to dinner outfits.
Yeah. Luckily, she is intercepted in her hoodie by yet another magical concierge who, when she says, does she tell him about the pinky promise and he understands the weight of it? I'm not sure.
No, she's quite rude because he's like, there's this city of magic and I want to draw you a map and make everything tactile. She's like, it's cool. I got it all on my phone. And I'm like, you got it all on your phone. Why do you have to ask this guy in the first place?
That is a sort of like ongoing undercurrent is that all of the older men in this movie are mad about GPS.
Yeah.
The dad, Hugo, also doesn't like that Henri is using GPS. He's like, use your mind. So he gives her a random address that I thought was not going to be a bookstore, but actually was the most magical bookstore on earth.
Sure.
Where she goes and runs into...
Just as a note, she's very strident about the fact that she needs it to be a bookstore that has books in English.
Yeah, no, she's not trying
to adapt.
Sydney,
there's a Barnes & Noble.
Sydney, it doesn't seem like you have a lot of hobbies. Could you not have done a little Duolingo on the plane over? She does attempt to speak a little French, but it is mostly in an attempt to ask other people to speak English to her.
Yeah.
How's your French, Chris?
Shabby. I took it in 7th and 8th grade and then got basically a special dispensation to get out of it because I had a lot of issues with the masculine, feminine, and what to, how to say words. Yeah. I wish I had stuck with it though. I find it quite beautiful. And Duolingo is very helpful and can convince you that you could carry on a conversation. In my most recent trip to Paris, I did find them to be more amenable to speaking English. Yeah. But still with a ton of attitude about it. A lot of eye rolling, a lot of huffing and puffing about it.
Which I think they deserve.
Yeah. And I don't think Sydney would have been skating as free as she did in this movie in real life.
I feel like even though this movie is not that strange or absurd like some of them are, it is kind of like she is in a carbon monoxide dream because the way that everyone in the movie is just so kind and supportive to her. There are French people in the bookstore just being thumbs up, you should go for it, gal.
Also insane that she's living in basically a smoke-free environment in Paris. Every single person.
It's so clean.
Yeah, is smoking in her face.
There are just twinkle lights everywhere. And so she is in the mood for a little romance by the time she makes it into this bookstore and runs into just the giantest, hottest Frenchman you have ever seen. She asks him where she can find the self-help books.
Yes.
Why is she getting her sister I was like, oh, she's going to get her sister a present so she can kind of prove that she had a night in Paris. And then she's just going and looking for an Enneagram for Dummies book or something.
Right.
And then I did actually feel that I was sort of fooled. I did think that he worked at the store. I thought it was a pretty good meet cute that she thought he worked at the store. He showed her all around, and then he didn't actually work there.
It speaks to their cosmic connection. He's drawn to her. He doesn't correct her when she asks. And that is another only only in this movie's version of Paris would a random stranger be like, I'll just allow you to think that I work here because I want to help you so bad. Yeah.
I'll provide you help I'm not even being paid to provide.
I don't work here.
What?
I don't work here.
But I saw you helping that woman find a book downstairs.
Yeah, Les Étoiles is my favorite book, so in Paris, I spend a lot of time here.
Now, of course, what we learn is that his passion is bookstores.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that he hopes, as a very rich man, to one day open one of his own.
This is one of my favorite elements of the. It's like, dude, go ahead. It seems
Hey.
like you have tons of money.
Here's an idea, do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and here's what's going to set my bookstore apart. There's going to be a wine bar in the back.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought you were trying to escape wine. I thought that was like the whole thing, is that you're burdened by your family's wine legacy.
And then I wonder because, like, you know, spoiler alert, like he does reach this goal in his life, and it
Mhm.
seems like they're mostly serving champagne. So it just seems like this could have been an extension of Castle's business plan in the first place.
Well, and they need Sydney to breeze into town to tell them that with all
she's
of her
gotta get the-
business acumen.
She's got her TurboTax out, and she's just like, we're going to hit our numbers, you know?
Oh, yeah. She's got all kinds of spreadsheets open, and she is ready to help these men who, again, have apparently been running this wine business for centuries,
Yeah.
but just like with absolutely no clue how to do it. And when he's like, she finally figures out he doesn't work there. He just like hangs out there and waits for American women to come in, and that he wants to open a bookstore with a wine. She's like, a bookstore with wine? I'll never leave. It's like, Sydney, you haven't read a book in a year.
A year.
You don't read books.
Come on.
But she
Yeah.
just did kind of seem like she should be wearing like a wine o'clock
Yes.
sweatshirt. And then, you know, he invites her to show her Paris at Christmas. And at first she won't give in to the hot Frenchman, a classic.
But she does go
Original
along
holiday.
with him. I mean, he's like, you know, you have to see the sights. I'll show you the sights. Now, in my limited but like beloved experiences in Paris, the sights are not close together.
No, this is
and
a big city.
it's a big city. The metro is useful, but not exactly door to door. I suppose they could be taking Uber, but there's a lot of like compression in terms of like how long it would take them to get from the Eiffel Tower to really anywhere else in Paris.
Oh, well, it's super helpful, though, that the Christmas market is actually directly underneath the
Sure.
Eiffel Tower.
Sure.
That was really helpful in terms of geography. He says that he's got like the best view. He can take her to this like really special view of the Eiffel Tower, which is in fact from the Ferris wheel.
Yes. Yeah.
He
Which
is a
anyone
liar.
else could have signed up to go.
Almost kind of like a touristy thing she might have done herself.
Yeah.
When they're at the Christmas market, she's like, you can give me a better view of the Eiffel Tower than this. And they literally just look up and they are directly underneath the Eiffel Tower.
Yes. Yeah.
This movie knows three things about Paris: the Eiffel Tower, baguettes, and macaroons.
Yes.
They are-
Macaroons get said more than champagne in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. And he is always acquiring like a fresh ribbon wrapped box of them at the drop of a hat.
And trying to like jam one in her mouth after like, well, I want to get to the cheese tasting eventually.
Okay. Well, we're well on our way because, I mean, actually a couple of like pretty giant things for one of these movies happen in quick order, which is that they pretty immediately fall in love doing these lightly Christmassy things. They almost kiss but get interrupted. And that's kind of our first one of those of Bingemas. Like, it's been a pretty straight to kissing year.
Yeah, I was waiting for this. I was scouting for it. I had my guys out there with the binoculars, and I was happy that we got one.
I was too, because it was a good one, because you saw it coming, but it still felt good when the Ferris wheel jolts and
You're
keeps
like,
them from kissing.
Yeah.
But then what always bothers me about that is it's like, well, if you're an adult person and you were about to kiss and you get interrupted, you'd be like, hey, that was crazy how we were about to kiss. Should we do that?
Yeah.
And that's never what happens, except in this movie where then they have this emotional connection over their dead moms and kind of, I'd say deadbeat dads on her end. On his end, his dad is just actually like a pretty nice guy.
Yeah, although he presents him as this emotional withholding demon, but
Who was going to throw away his like childhood book.
Yeah.
Chris, I got to tell you something. When he brought up Le Petit Prince, and I you had your scouts out there for the kiss. I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get ready to cry in about 50 minutes.
Right, when this book comes back around. Yeah.
Chekhov's Le Petit Prince is going to come back up, and I'm going to cry because kind of what they bond over their moms. He tells her about his favorite childhood book. He is always quoting stuff. Like, he is like my brother quoting old school. Like, he is just never not quoting French sayings and French books. And he tells her that that was his favorite book when he was little. And he clung onto it so much when his mother died that his dad threatened to throw it away.
Yeah.
My sweet Hugo, I don't think so.
But Hugo was dealing with his own grief, you know?
He was in grief. And so Henri started hiding it so many places that he ultimately lost it. And so what you know is that at some point, somebody's going to find it. What I really did not anticipate is that there was going to be a very quick pivot then from them kissing for the first time to immediately fucking.
Yeah. I thought that was actually where this movie would go from G to PG or maybe even to PG-13.
Yeah. They did not show the sex, which I guess would be PG-13. What they did show was like a very artful transition from a kiss to a nude statue of a man and a woman to represent the sex, and then to her waking up in bed.
Yes. Yeah.
At which point we find out that she is late for her meeting, of course.
Frazzled. Yeah.
And this is where I was like, you were talking about the geography. This like entitled American woman, she gets back to the hotel. She goes down to this concierge who's been so nice to her. And she's like, how do I get to this address quick? And he's like, it's going to be 30 minutes, on the train or whatever. And she's like, I need to get there quicker. Quicker than 30 minutes? You're in an urban metropolitan city.
One of the things that's always funny about being late for meetings in these movies, especially the more contemporary ones, is like, just send a text. Just be like, you know what? Like, there's like a massive like traffic jam or whatever. Like, put me third in this list of people who have to present. Like, I don't think it would be as big of a deal as she's making it out to be. I know she's supposed to be doing a presentation, but yeah, she has to run through the Luxembourg Gardens. Is that right? To get there?
Yes, that's the shortcut.
Yeah, which is like tough life, It's not the end of the world. You get to knock another one off your bucket list there, Sydney.
She doesn't even want to see them. She's like, it's just too much. She doesn't want to do it. And when she gets there, she's just in a coat and a scarf. Like, she looks like a normal person. And finally, everyone is glaring at her like they should have been for the whole movie.
Yes. And this is where like we kind of take a little bit of a turn towards an anti-American capitalist sentiment, even though the other people there are also trying to acquire Castle. Sydney is definitely low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, we get a sort of like United Nations of acquisitions situation where we meet the representative of the German company, Otto, who is also in the running, and he's Flula Borg, who I do always think is really funny.
He's amazing. Yes.
In just a real killer, also adult male blonde wig. We meet the French woman who thinks that champagne should stay in France. And of course we meet, I must shout out, Sasha's favorite, Roberto, who is played by Sean Amsing, who absolutely steals the movie at every turn.
Yes, but is in a different movie than everyone else.
Oh, yeah, and has like a different caliber of writing than ever. He should also be wearing a wine o'clock hoodie. He is the son of a billionaire who invented a microchip. And in that way, and he loves to party. He just likes champagne. And so he wants to keep his favorite champagne alive. And I don't know, if I'm Hugo, does that not immediately seem like the thing that you want is just an investor?
Yeah, but Hugo's going through like a little bit of like a late midlife crisis fugue state where it's not really about selling the company. It's about saving himself.
That's right. And his legacy and how his son plays into that and why his son is trying to escape him. There's so much happening, and it's all happening in front of strangers, because what she finds out is that for some reason, they will all be giving their presentations together and in front of each other.
Yes. And on a field trip.
Well, the field trip comes a lot, totally unplanned, unexpected. Of course, we also find out in this moment, and she finds out that Henri is Hugo's son.
Yes.
And he's not just his son, he's the vice president of the company.
Yeah, which also may speak to why they need to sell the company in the first place. Because if it's a father-son business and the father and the son can barely speak to each other, you're probably not getting really clean C-suite management.
No, I don't think so. And the VP is just like predominantly picking up women in small and quaint bookstores. His mind is elsewhere.
He's speaking entirely in quotations from classic French literature.
He is also in sort of a fugue state, where he can't create a sentence himself. And then Henri and Sydney just kind of proceed to everyone just sort of argues in front of each other. It's no one really gives a presentation. And Hugo's like, that's it. We gotta all go to my house together.
Yeah.
We gotta work this out like a family.
We're going to go play Survivor, basically. We're going to do a couple of challenges. We'll have some tribals, and then we'll figure out who's going to get the company.
There is positively no reason for these mergers and acquisitions execs to be pruning vines and proving their
turning
worth.
bottles. Yeah.
It truly is just like games.
Yeah.
I think you're so right, though. I think Hugo really was seeking something. And by the end, he really does end up with a found family.
And some new spark plugs for his MG, yeah.
Yeah, and also a helpful bespoke mechanic in the form of Sydney, who actually does have one hobby. I know you liked the cheese dinner.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
This is a shocking turn towards bathroom humor in the middle of this film. And also, a really, really incongruous match of actor and character with action, and by that, do you mean Minka
Kelly farting?
Yeah, and making emergency bathroom trips because she's force-fed a bunch of soft, ripe cheeses by the evil French executive who also seems to be trying to make a move on Hugo herself. But she basically, they go to a nice dinner at the chateau where the champagne is made in Bernay, is that right? Normandy?
Yeah.
And as part, Sydney reveals that she's lactose intolerant at some point. And of course, cue mad cheeses being served to her. Enormous slices, not digestive at all. And we get a 5-minute sequence of Minka Kelly writhing in pain, running to the bathroom, which I was not prepared for, nor really interested in.
No, and also it's not just her going through this on her own. Then there's a knock on the door and you're like, I know that's not that giant Frenchman who's falling in love with her. And it sure is. And I was watching with subtitles and it simply says farts in brackets. And he says, was that? Did you? Which would be enough for me to cut things off right there.
Yes, I would just be like,
if this
clearly,
is the situation, please don't
Yeah.
point it out.
Yeah.
And then she actually just puts her coat on and goes to a Christmas market, and vis-a-vis diarrhea, everything's fine.
Honestly, if you guys were talking about moments of magic in these films and whether or not the supernatural is ever present, and instant recovery from lactose-induced gastric distress doesn't happen really, as far as I'm
definitely
aware.
not when you're in another country. It's
No.
it's never worse than when you're
So
traveling.
the other thing is that she has no jet lag. She's just I'm dying, and then this guy is Christmas market time, and she's like, cool, let me get my hoodie.
Also, is that Christmas market back in Paris?
No, it's in Bernay. I think they're in Normandy, which at once is insanely quaint and old fashioned, but has a Bourgogne rave going on at the Christmas market.
Yeah, and that did look fun. And that is where Roberto meets a sexy, sexy Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm. Pear Christmas.
Who has an OnlyFans page. And I do want to personally apologize to Mallory Rubin on this podcast for accidentally not giving her the Netflix movie that had a hot Santa in it, which was her only request.
Yeah.
I thought that was really going to play off. And basically everyone in this movie pairs off with a love interest.
Yes.
Is this when we find out that Sydney is divorced?
I believe so, yes. This is where a little bit more personal sharing and biography comes out.
That's true. This is where they're falling in love over biography and really over much more dad stuff. She talks about being divorced, the guy cheated on her. And so really in everything that she does by convincing herself that she is helping small businesses by acquiring them and selling them off for parts, it is to prove something to her ex-husband, her father who abandoned her, and also her boss.
Yeah, I love that like her solve for her broken heart is to maximize shareholder value, you know?
And won't capitalism do it? You know, like, won't it just give us this confusing concept about our worth and our value? And I kind of know where the movie lands on that. It's not exactly anti.
No. I mean, I think it's like kind of a harmonious merge. It's like a pre-NAFTA version of this where it's like, if you have really great business solutions and like the gumption of small business will come together, and that'll be like what takes us into the next century. And that's why they're able to like eventually like make their dreams come true. But man, yeah, like I kind of was like, there's a couple of scenes with Sydney Minka in this movie where she says something that is demonstrably untrue based on her like acting. Like, and I love Minka Kelly, but she'll say something like, my heart is broken. And you're like, is it?
She didn't seem divorced.
Yeah.
She didn't seem like she got cheated on. I also like whatever's going on with her, because she says that she's doing a lot of these things. She feels this need to prove herself because of the cheating and the dad abandoning and the boss expectations. But then also later, she says that she feels the need to help small businesses because her dead mom wanted to start a small business.
Yeah.
When that sister is like, before she goes to Paris and she's talking about all the work she's going to have to do, the sister is like, you sound just like mom. And Minka Kelly's like, what do you mean? And I was also like, what do you mean?
What do you mean? Yeah.
She's just talking about doing her job, which I guess the mom used to talk about too and had dreams of starting a business, but never did. And had dreams of traveling, but never did. And actually, Minka Kelly hasn't done either one of those things. So
honestly, we need like an Andor for Champagne Problems that's like the 5 years leading up to this moment of this Parisian trip. Because I'd like to know all about it.
I would too. It would help me because I did find myself pretty compelled by the romance. I mean, I liked watching these two fall in love. It's very clearly a situation of someone thought of the title Champagne Problems. They said, let's make this a movie, but it's not going to be that good. So we can't put it out in just whenever.
Yeah.
We have to make it Christmas when people are ripe for watching bullshit.
Right. And this is like kind of a common, I'm almost impressed that Christmas films have become a genre unto themselves that people can package their original ideas into, where it's like, you were hearing for a long time where it was like, oh, I want to make like this kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark type adventure movie. And somebody would be like, great, Jack Daniel's bourbon is looking for IP brand extension. So maybe the adventurer could be named Jack Daniels and he goes off to look for special casks of whiskey. And it's like, that's what this is. It's basically you've got mail, but with a little bit of culture clash. And they're like, great, if we can throw a Christmas tree in the background, like green light.
Yeah, I mean, I also like to create for myself situations where I can do a kind of like easy, low stakes podcast and baby, you're listening to it. And like, that is what they have done with the genre. It's just, you can get a little check, you can get a little money. Minka Kelly can get a little job. I'm not against that.
Sure.
And however, we've got to take this shortcut to emotional stakes. And so someone has to be dead. And someone has to be healing traumas. And while they are sort of competing for the right to acquire this company via proving their wine skills, sort of, or just spending some time there, Henri and Hugo are also healing their relationship.
Yes. Now, forgive me if you've discussed this on previous Bingemas episodes, but is the dead mom aspect of these movies simply to allow our main character to have no other plans during the holidays?
No, it definitely can be, but a lot of times people just don't talk about their parents. It's like,
Okay.
you know, someone's dead, but like someone else is just like, well, I can spend all Christmas with this beautiful newcomer and she can come to my Christmas Eve party and no one's. This happens to be a movie where all moms are dead. It doesn't have to be moms. It doesn't even have to be parents. It is basically a shortcut to emotional stakes
Right.
and like
That this
something
person is looking
compelling
for
you.
something this holiday season. Because I watched a couple just in my usual like round of holiday movie viewing, and I watched like a Brittany Snow one called like Christmas at the Campbells.
Yes.
And then I watched Leighton Meester's Xmas, and both of those are ex-girlfriend still goes to ex-boyfriend's holiday house for the holidays
'Cause they
as
don't
he is a
have-
driven alpha out working during the holidays. And
And
so
And do they not have families?
they don't have, and they both have dead parents who had no families. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is, I mean, yeah, like there are constructs that are so specific that are always going to be revisited. And I do find within the rubric, and I've had a lot of thoughts this year of like, these are new questions I should add to the rubric. Like this year, there's been so much eavesdropping.
Oh my God.
There
yeah.
always is, but like so many misunderstandings in these movies come from eavesdropping, as they do in this film.
Yes.
But dead is like, you're almost never gonna not have dead. Someone will always be dead, and someone will usually be eavesdropping because, I mean, basically the conduit for Hugo and Henri to heal their relationship is just like what a good listener Sydney is. They just have so many chats with her, and Hugo is able to talk about like the grief that he experienced around his wife, and he wished she'd showed up more for his son. And like after, I don't know, 25 years or more, is able to finally express that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's sort of strange about this entire setup is that if I had been unexpectedly invited to a chateau, thus extending this what was supposed to be 48-hour business trip to 4 or 5 days, not only would I be like, I don't have enough clothes, but I'd also be like, okay, this is strange. And then when I got to the chateau, I was presented with a series of literally physical challenges like pruning and turning bottles, and kind of randomly, seemingly like a lot of free time where they're like, oh yeah, I've wandered into this garage. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, I assume I have the run of the house. You know, I would be like, I guess I'm confined to quarters until I'm instructed that it's time to do the wine turning competition. But I wouldn't be like popping up in Hugo's, garage, helping him with his car, chatting with the butler, kind of wandering the grounds, looking for the dog, etc.
Well, as established, this woman is very entitled.
Yeah.
I think I would assume, and maybe this is what you're getting at, that it's kind of a most dangerous game situation.
Yeah.
And I would still go, but I would just know that like I could be shot with an arrow at any moment.
Yes. Yeah.
And from the outside, we see this huge, gorgeous chateau. But these two, Henri and Sydney, they are just always running into each other in like socked feet. It seems like maybe all of the other wings of the house are closed.
Yeah.
And like someone was murdered there and they covered up everything in sheets. And now everyone has to stay in these like 3 bedrooms.
Yes. They have one wing. The other one isn't heated. Yeah.
Was her bathroom outside of her room when
I
she was
thinking about
having
this
her
too.
problems?
I think she has an ensuite bathroom, but I was amused by the fact that at the end of her lactose intolerance night, she just is like, goes into Roberto's room and is like, can't sleep. Here I am. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know why you can't sleep.
You're disgusting.
Yeah.
Don't eat the cheese. He would have understood that. He already knew you weren't French. It's also pretty messed up to serve an entirely cheese dinner.
But isn't
not
that
to keep circling back.
That was like a little move by the woman from Terrebonne wineries, right?
But Hugo still did it. Like she but he was also, spoiler alert, falling in love with that woman.
Yeah.
And only falling in love with Hugo saved her from sort of becoming a full villain herself.
Yeah.
And I actually, at this point, should say that the last time I was in Paris, I went with some friends for Thanksgiving, and we did like a raclette, like a full cheese dinner.
Sure.
And I felt terrible for days. It was a really bad decision. It was like I had swallowed lead.
Yeah.
I was just positively laden. And she did that on the first day of her like sexy trip to both like do a business thing and fall in love.
I have my version of raclette in Paris is usually cigarettes, where I'm just like, when in Paris, it's time to pick up this long dormant habit that I've kicked successfully when I was like in my 30s. But then like when you get the opportunity to do it.
That's so glamorous.
It's not as glamorous. You just are like, why am I smoking it during the day? I'm having a ham sandwich. Like, this is disgusting. I'm like eating a croissant and smoking it. It's not right.
The things that you think will be glamorous and romantic when you're traveling usually are not. And it's the things that you sort of happen upon, like a large Frenchman who has a dream of opening a wine bookstore that kind of take you away. That is fun. I kind of didn't notice the real run of the house that she was giving herself. So like then kind of one of the major the plot turns that keeps guiding them towards falling in love and leading towards a misunderstanding is that the little dog gets loose. There's a tiny little white dog who looks like the dog from the Caesar dog food cans. I'm not sure what kind of dog that is, but he's a very cute white dog. And
I guess it's worth just for the listeners stating that we go from they fall in love the first night, Ferris wheel, Eiffel Tower, statue, etc. Next day, find out that they are on opposite sides of a negotiating table, and Henri is like straight up like
he's pissed.
Like he's pissed at her. He's just like, you suck. TRG sucks. I hate modern finance. I hate your globalist
he knows
ambitions.
Specifically about her company and how they bought they acquired a different wine brand
and destroyed it. Yeah, Yeah, and then over the course of this weekend at the chateau, Henri starts to warm up, culminating with this dog hunt.
Yeah, and there's really like no reason for him to have warmed up. I don't feel like she's ever like, I'm going to personally
she's swearing
guide
she's
this
not
process.
Like other finance girls. She's not here to decimate the corporation.
No, she's the sweetest finance gal you'll ever meet. She's got a real sort of empathy to the way in which she will gut your company. But like, I also feel like she doesn't really give him some big speech of like, maybe this happened, but I will guide this every step of the way. He just kind of, it's just that power of Sydney. He just kind of warms back up to her. She does say, like, at some point she says she's got 3 versions of her presentation. We only ever hear her give everyone's presentation's terrible.
Oh, awful. The Flula's one is like a Murnau film from the 1920s. Terabon, she doesn't even get full audio. Like we are mostly like on Hugo's like reverie about his ex-wife or maybe falling in love with her. And Roberto's just like, I love to burn the candle at both ends and I need that champagne for it. No, I would not have greenlit any of these presentations.
I had a lot of fun with Roberto and his different turns of phrase and how he loves to party and how much he likes Sydney and how, what does he say that growing up, he only ever wished for 3 things for Christmas, a rare Christmas mention, a monkey butler, a robot butler, and friends like the Friends and Friends.
Yeah.
And he's so excited to be in this group and to have friends. He has a drinking problem. He has a pretty pesky, serious drinking problem.
Yes.
Within the film.
He does. In fact, I imagine that his dad has probably been like, why don't you go to Paris, the only place in the world where you might be like socially accepted to drink as much wine as you seem to want to drink?
Right. And I would also be interested in his Andor because he is also very clearly seeking something. Like
yes.
He is looking for escape in all of the wrong places. Okay, we'll get back to the plot too, but this also reminds me of something else that is happening throughout the movie, which is a lot of sort of like meta talk about other movies that are sort of they talk a lot about Die Hard and they talk a lot about Terminator 2.
The Die Hard bit is probably the funniest moment of the movie is Flula's Die Hard is actually a tragedy.
That was good.
And that Hans Gruber was Robin Hood, and we don't know what he was going to do with the money. He may have opened schools, and that the Nakatomi Corporation and John McClane are the villains of Die Hard, which I had a good lull at that.
I liked him doing that a lot. I would say prior to that, I was like, that's probably enough mentions of watching Die Hard at Christmas. We're all on the same page that it's not a Christmas movie, but happens at Christmas. And like, that's the kind of, like in Hallmark movies, they're not like legally allowed to say Die Hard. They can't like reference things that aren't Hallmark
I was
properties.
wondering about that because like that's like how like you can't really say Super Bowl. You have to say big game.
The big game.
Yeah. Yeah.
They also like won't, there are certain things that they seemingly can say, but they always say like ride share instead of Uber or Lyft. But in Netflix, I don't know what's going on, but you're allowed to say the things. And one of Sydney's only character traits is that when she's stressed, she quotes Terminator 2. Okay.
I'm not
all
like
of that
other
to
girls.
say, it led to my favorite movie reference of the movie, which doesn't have to do with Christmas exactly, but is Roberto saying that he throws a party, his 7 Secret Santa party, which is called What's in the Boxing Day.
Yes, that was actually that was the silver medalist for me. That was really good.
It was pretty good. But yeah, it all leads up to them like giving their presentations, him warming back up to her. And it is at this moment that a tiny dog gets loose and that Hugo sends them off in pairs, as one does, to find a dog on the property that the dog lives on.
That is, we would assume there's some staff working on the property who could also do that. Yeah.
Hartley feels lost, and everyone's like, we'll go find him. These two chuckle fucks immediately go to the, like wine cellar, not expecting that dog to be there. And then they decide they split up, which felt like it could go a horror movie. And then what should she find but both the dog and the lost copy of Le Petit Prince?
Yes, which really seals the deal. She completely thaws Henri out with this. I will say that, in my state of like kind of addled end of the yearness, I thought for half this film that it was Machiavelli's The Prince that he was so anxious to get back. And I was like, this is a strange choice.
I mean, it kind of works in the same way that this does. I was like,
that would be the one book Sydney read.
Yeah, she's actually like, I've read it a few times. With The Little Prince, I was like, yeah, that makes, I found the performance very winning. I found him very attractive. And so like, I was kind of all good on this character. But all of Netflix's movies this year, including this one, have had these very like entitled men who like don't have any problems, but are acting like they have big problems. Like he is this poor little rich boy who is being sort of, could be like handed an empire that he could run. He's clearly coasting on generational wealth. He lives in this like sun-dappled, dormered loft.
Yeah.
And he just feels so bad for himself.
And he has like presumably a Paris apartment and a country house, like a country manor. Yeah.
An absolute manor and all this wine. And now he's meeting the love of his life and he just can't be happy. But he can be happy once he is, restored to this book.
Does Henri ever mention any other titles besides The Little Prince as like the big book lover? Like, is he ever like, oh, have you checked out Conversations with Friends? Or like, has he ever?
He quotes, he quotes Simone de Beauvoir.
De Beauvoir. Yeah, that's right.
De Beauvoir.
Yeah.
I accept the great adventure of being me. Which aren't they all? But no, not that many other books. And he doesn't seem to show a real love of... he is quoting things a lot.
Yeah.
But they're mostly like French sayings.
But you could do that with like a quote of the day app or something,
Yeah. And then really like the bookstore that he opens and even the books... the bookstore that they're in that he loves so much when they meet, she asks where the self-help books are. He takes her upstairs where there's like kind of a small table of self-help books, a giant piano, and a woman singing, and then like a lot of leather-bound books. Like this isn't like your typical bookstore where you're like finding, I couldn't make heads or tails of what these bookstores were.
I know it's Les Etoiles is the name of the bookstore. I thought it was somewhat modeled off Shakespeare and Company because she specifies that she wants English language. Usually with Shakespeare and Company, there's like a line you're forced to like kind of like move through it quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the most magical bookstore on earth, and it's just kind of like hidden behind this door, and really only the French concierge could give you access to it. But one way or another, he gets reunited with this book, and I did cry.
Yeah.
Not my biggest cry, but I knew that I would.
Not your biggest cry in this movie or just in general?
In Bingemas or in this movie.
Okay.
I had a pretty unexpected cry in this movie.
Okay.
Which is it's the perfect time to get to that. The sort of, you kind of feel like the misunderstanding comes very early on, and then they sort of recover from it. But then, as you always know, the adult male blonde villain is going to show back up. Ryan, get the fuck out of here. No one needs you. And he even says that. Also, did you think that I thought that was going to be her ex-husband?
Ryan being her ex would be great. Although you'd then be like, how could you wind up with Ryan but really want to be with a guy like Henri? You know what I mean? Like how can you hold those two things inside one soul?
Well, because you learn from being with a guy like Ryan.
Or
that
maybe
you want
Ryan
to be with a guy
was like Henri in the beginning and was like, maybe we could start a small business, but then just gets corrupted by like...
He was like, baby, we're just making our nest egg here at the private equity, acquisitions company. And then we're going to go off and do big things.
Refurbish a Vermont house, yeah.
Yeah. And then, then he started looking at watches and he liked, what this business afforded to him.
And he got highlights.
He stayed.
Yeah.
That man has been naturally blonde before, but that didn't strike me as a natural blonde. That was very highlighted. I just felt like, I guess I kind of felt like they had a good bit of chemistry in the beginning of the movie. Yes. And I just kept thinking that like it was going to come back that they had been together before.
She's doing mixed sports metaphors. Seems like they get along.
They have bits.
Yeah, it seems like the whole thing is like Minka's character does the decks. Ryan does the closing and the presentations. I thought Marvin, the guy who runs the Roth group, I assume Marvin Roth, pulled the trigger too early on the Ryan call. And I think that would have been disruptive, and that this is a trope in a lot of like rom-coms around the world of business where like someone thinks it's their big opportunity, but then this guy comes and ruins it. And it's like, I don't think businesses do that a lot where they're like, we're just going to send someone else unannounced.
Yeah, they're like, what we're going to do is undermine our own authority and send someone else in to say, old gal wasn't handling the deal. We didn't send in the big guns originally, but now we will.
Right. So Ryan shows up,
Ryan shows up, but then immediately Ryan is like, oh, you did it, Sid. You closed the deal. Like she actually had, with her empathy and kindness, closed the deal.
But then Ryan, classic Ryan, does like the incredible breakdown of how they're going to atomize this company and sell it off for parts. And who's walking by when that happens? And
who should be walking by the thick 17th century mahogany door to overhear an entire conversation
of really closely guarded business secrets?
But Henri, who like, I kept thinking, that is like the longest bout of eavesdropping I've ever seen. Like he stuck around until he heard the bad thing. Like
this is where the film maybe lost the hold on its pacing, where there's like scenes that go on like incredibly long, including the eavesdropping scene.
Yes, there were a lot of times that I noted in this movie, and one that we're getting to where like, this is an 80-minute movie that felt longer at times. Yes. As you took it in 3 sittings.
Yeah. My wife did turn to me last night as we concluded this film and said, is this movie 5 hours long? Like, because I feel like we have been watching it. It's like longer than the American Revolution documentary.
And it has positively no twists and turns. Like it is not a movie of twists. So for you to have broken it down in chapters, but I guess this is it's a small, very short chapter when he overhears Ryan explain that they are going to buy the company, or that Hugo has called. He is ready to sign with them. And then also Japan has called. And they are also ready to sign for when they turn the business over, the champagne business over to them.
Yeah, I guess just like, what do they freeze dry the grapes and send them to Japan? I don't really understand what Japan had to do with it. It seemed unnecessary to blame them.
You know, I did live in Sendai, Japan for a while. And where I lived was like the one other place in the world that could make scotch because of like the river that ran through it, like was actually compiled in all of the right sort of like, I don't know, sediment or whatever.
It's
to
like
sort
peat,
of
right?
The peat to like make scotch like you would make in Scotland. And maybe there's a similar region for champagne.
Yeah.
Maybe Ryan didn't mention that because he had to get to this part. And he's like, Sid, you did it. Like, and she's like, I did do it. I did everything that I came here to do. I was successful. And then Henri walks away just so downtrodden. And she says, and now I wish I hadn't. Damn it, Henri. Just stick around a little longer.
Damn it, Sid. Don't have such like a storyteller's gift for a twist in the conversation.
Your damn gift for narrative is once again self-sabotaging you. But luckily, she's such a moral private equity person that she goes and has a little chat with Hugo, who's been trying to restore this old-ass beat-up car. I mean, it didn't look like for decades.
Yeah.
Hugo's been doing a lot of things for decades not very well, running this wine business and restoring this car. And then she comes in and she's like, you ever thought about spark plugs?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, she just introduces him to a part of a car he didn't know existed. He changes them. The car starts running. At some point that we don't see, she tells him that what's going to happen. And so the next morning, she packs up and leaves to go back home. And he chooses Roberto as the next heir to the throne.
And then after the deal is shaken upon, reveals the crippling amount of debt that his wine business is.
Yeah, like
He's like $67 million in debt or something.
Euros.
Yeah, euros. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's like, you know, Roberto is basically like, this was sweet, but I was really just here for the friendships I made along the way. I really don't think I should be running this company. And he's like, why don't I just give you money? And Hugo's like, you'd have to give me 60 million euros, which Roberto has been very clear all along would be no problem.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't quite understand the resolution of the wine company business-wise. So I mean, like in that deal where everybody's just like, you can't possibly do this. And he's like, sure I can. We're gonna like just saddle Roberto with this debt.
And the whole point, I thought, was like that Hugo wanted to retire.
Yes.
And like have someone else run the business. But now he's still going to be running the business while meeting the second love of his life.
Classic
in the
Joe
form of
Biden move right there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do something that's a little too big of a task at just the wrong time. So apparently everyone feels pretty good about this. And this is also when he reveals that he made this decision because Sydney told him what old TRG was going to be doing. And Ryan, like, I feel like he like slams a laptop shut, flips his hair and leaves the room. He's so mad.
He's like, my work here is done.
Yeah, he's like, this is ridiculous. I planned on ruining Christmas and Sydney cut my legs out from under me. You know, from the moment that Henri finds this out, that we are about to see like a low speed, high speed chase, you know, somewhere. I thought it was going to be through a train station. It was actually by way of her going to the magical concierge and then Henri going to the magical concierge. And this is the point at which I say, I think that guy was Santa.
I do too, because he's so nice. And I think that he, in real life, a Parisian concierge would just be like, I don't understand what's going on and I have other clients to deal with. Sydney's line, Minka Kelly's line delivery when concierge is like, how was your time in Paris? And she's like, well, I quit my job and broke my heart. I got my heart broken, and it is just like the flattest affect ever.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. Like,
And then there's a switch where like on the train ride over, she's actually done all of the sort of like healing on this she needs to do, where she's like, but I also learned how to love again.
Yeah.
And I like reconnected with my dead mom. And so actually I'm going to be just fine.
yeah.
Girl
and then
who's going to be fine.
Henri has taken his dad's, Henri takes his dad's car, which went from decades of non-functioning to an everyday ride, apparently, and can make the trip from Normandy to Paris in like 5 seconds flat.
Oh, he's Fred Flintstoning that thing. Like it is that it's falling apart. His feet are on the ground. It's like making all these popping sounds when you hear him driving it. It sounds very bad. He probably also just like parked it on a sidewalk. I think that was basically like a disposable car.
Yeah.
And he gets the tip from Santa, the concierge, that she's back at the bookstore where they met, just getting a book for herself this time.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a self-help book.
Because she only knows one place in Paris.
Yeah, and only one kind of book because, again, she doesn't read. And he runs into her there, you know.
And she's still sticking to her story. She's like, I got this flight tonight.
What is her deal?
Yeah, like, for what? You quit? Like,
you quit your job. You and your sister honestly don't seem that close. There's something
really
kind
different
of
values from her.
Like totally different system. She just wants you to have fun anyways. You have this hot, rich man in front of you who can give you a job. I mean, that's always like so many of these movies are always leading up to like, how can a husband and a wife work together?
Yes.
Don't do that.
It's always like that. Like I was watching that Brittany Snow Justin Long one, and theirs was. I mean, this is from I think 2022 or something like that. But their gig was he runs a outdoor adventure company, and she's gonna do the photography for his brochures.
Wow,
and it's like,
what a gig!
Yeah.
Go ahead and set that 401k up, girl. You're going to have a great life.
What do you do? I took a lot of brochure photography.
For one company.
Yeah, for one company.
That's
in
my
like
husband's.
Breckenridge, Colorado. Yeah.
And is falling apart. I mean, that's the thing is that like, by the end of this movie, what has been set up, not emotionally, but structurally, is that a year later, so actually, let me say this first. This is where I really cried.
Okay.
He does his love profession for her. She still is like, I have to go. Check-in's in an hour. And then
it's like I have points, so it's kind of like
I want to see if I can get my upgrade. I'm so close to gold status, so it's important that I be there, use the lounge. And he's kind of like, okay, well, it was really nice to meet you. And they walk apart for like no reason.
Yeah.
I thought. Except for the reason is so that they can turn back around to each other from, I'm going to cry saying it, from kind of far away. And he can say in French, except we don't get the subtitles this time, but it's already been set up. This thing, Hugo tells her that when you say, I miss you in French, it actually means I'm missing from you or you're missing from me, I guess, depending on the way you say it. And he says, I miss you in French. We don't get the subtitles. So I really have not been listening that well, and I don't know what he said. And then she says,
wait, this is what makes you cry?
Yeah.
It's half the conversation you didn't even understand.
Well, because then it was so unexpected for me. I didn't know what he said. I thought it was just like see you later, girl.
Yeah.
Let's pick this back up if you're ever in Paris.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. Here's my Snapchat.
Yeah.
He says something in French, and then she says, you're missing from me too.
Oh.
And then I understood what was going on. And I sort of like hiccuped. It was so unexpected. It was
like you had like
storm.
A pound of raclette all of a sudden.
Yeah. I was like, there was a rock in my stomach. I was moved. I was rooting for these two. Sort of. I actually don't think they're a great match. But maybe they are, because a year later, they opened up a super ill-advised bookstore together.
Okay. A little unclear. Where is the bookstore in Paris, or is it part of the manor?
It's at Castle.
So
it's
let's just be
Castle
clear.
Chateau.
They basically opened a gift shop.
Exactly. And I mean, like, there are no like clear, it's all leather bound books in there. Like, nobody's coming in there to to really buy a book.
Right. They have Roberto drinking all day long. Sydney's like, yeah, like we're really underwater on our bills, but like Christmas is coming again and we're gonna crush this year because I guess we're gonna have all these little Prince editions that are flying out the door.
Yeah.
But I was like kind of confused by like, so you have a destination bookstore in the rural part of France in Normandy that people have to travel to buy a book and I guess presumably get hammered, right? Like,
yeah, and everyone wants to go to a vineyard in the winter. So I bet Christmas is going to be a really high selling time for them. I think that's a great plan. Sydney, he says he calls her the CEO. And I was like, of this bookstore? But then I wondered if she'd been named the CEO of the vineyard.
I was confused about that too because she was like just really crunching the numbers. Like she was just like, oh, I'm looking at my iPad and
she was doing a lot of business.
I couldn't tell if like, I was like, all of these movies usually reward our main character for their passion in life. And Sydney seems to have been demoted to being like the accountant of a bookstore.
Well, Chris, that's because her passion in life was not mergers and acquisitions.
No.
It was helping small businesses.
It's true.
And here she is helping these rich white Frenchmen keep their generational wealth, running for centuries of their legacy to come. Congrats, Sid.
I mean, between Roberto and the Cassell family, they probably could buy Paris Saint-Germain, and run the football club, but they're like barely keeping this bookstore afloat in the bottom floor of the manor where they have the vineyard. So I just like we wanted an Andor, I'd love to get a sequel that's like maybe more like The Big Short and what happens to this business in the future if there's ever a credit crunch.
Yeah. Well, as often comes up on this podcast, Chris, I really believe that you are the only one to write that movie, and I hope that you will.
Who else could I bring from Friday Night Lights in to be involved with that in the cast-wise?
The whole cast. That's the thing is like, and you just got to get the whole gang
Riggs
back
and
together
Saracen.
again.
Yeah. They get involved. They're like...
they're, it's a couple of brothers. Minka Kelly's returning in this role. Coach Taylor, those winking eyes, those are meant to be in a Christmas movie. Absolutely. Sure. Oh, Chris Ryan, I can't thank you enough for closing out Bingemas with me.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Bingemas. Thank you to Sasha, Belle, and Ashleigh for all of their work this season. Thank you for listening all 12 days. And as always, Merry Bingemas to all and to all a good pod.